And welcome back to the European LCS. I'm still Quickshot, joined at the caster desk by the Fish Show and Foxtrot as we get ready for G2 versus Roccat. And I hope the next game is as much of a banger as the last one.
I'm excited to be
Could be a little bit longer.
Maybe.
Maybe a tad longer. My first proper TriCast with you guys and living proof that a human being can come between the Fish Show and Quickshot. I'm sure your missus will be happy to see that.
There you go. You're the first one to do it.
Yeah. Better or worse, we'll find out later upon public review. Got stuck a little bit on the wording there for me. But anyways, as we jump in to pick some bans, of course, Roccat, 4 wins and 5 losses, taking on G2 Esports now at 7-2. Immediately out the gate, Heimerdinger and Aatrox. Nobody is surprised by those bans.
Yeah, pretty standard. Ooh, a Yasuo ban. Perks has played it, but obviously not been something he would first pick. Unlike Misfits.
Maybe they've got the old Wukong stacked up as a pocket pick. Who knows?
Who knows? I think if you're Roccat, we talk about this very often, but kind of the way for you to win the game, it has to be through early snowball around, in my opinion, Memento and Blank, so around the mid lane specifically. You have to get a good matchup.
Right, and Memento has been a huge catalyst for these plays specifically. And one game that stood out for me early on in the split was when he played Hecarim.
Oh, that was against G2.
And do you know what happened?
He died.
It was ridiculously awful.
It was so bad.
So, what are the chances we see that again, do you reckon?
I actually, we had him later talking about the idea, you know, of like, pick Hecarim, get Predator, succeed with your first gank. His first play was run into a blue buff and die, and we were like, oh, okay. This is pretty bad now.
This is fine.
So, the Zoe, we just talked about how Roccat must win around the mid lane if they are going to take down G2 Esports. Zoe is the go-to pick for basically every mid. However, it does allow for multiple different counter picks. We have seen the Irelia a few times now.
Right, and even outside of the one-on-one mid lane matchup, champions that can displace enemies, like the Gragas we've seen as well. It's so easy to predict the positioning of a Zoe coming back from her little hoppy portal and then catch her out of position.
Might be a funnel Lucian, because I'm not expecting Yanan to play the AD carry. G2's been very vocal about mages being far superior in the bot lane. It's been Yanan's playstyle. I think it's gonna be Perks grabbing this in mid against the Zoe. That at least is the most likely thing.
But who do you funnel it with since the Braum is banned?
I would like Shen.
Okay.
Alistar is also here as one of the options for Jankos to grab. So I think there is still enough supports even though Braum is gone.
What do you think about the junglers being left open when we thought that Memento had a huge impact on Roccat's success? Are they going to limit his champion pool even further?
They could definitely do that. He might have a pocket pick like the Hecarim. Looking at the G2 draft again though, because Trundle is already here and Fiddle is now going to be the support.
There it is.
It might just be a standard Lucian mid and not actually a funnel Lucian, because Trundle doesn't really make sense in the funnel comp.
So then what do you combine with that Fiddle down bottom? Any of the other bruisers or mages that you like to see from Hionen's backstory, or does he go pushing mid again like Ziggs or Brand?
Yeah,
or something like
Ziggs,
that?
Brand, Karma, Morgana, like there's so many choices for him. On the Euphoria podcast, we talked about how one of the reasons they sometimes dislike their own drafts is because they have so many picks for each role. They just get confused. Like, what is actually the best right now? We have 20 picks for the bot lane, and they're not picking something they didn't actually like in the end.
Well, I'm so glad Grabs is there to help, you know, direct that knowledge and whatnot, because yesterday, that all AP comp from G2 made me a little nervous, but it did work out in the end. I don't think it was the comp that really did it. It was the decision-making and the way they played on the map. But it's you can see those pitfalls of having, you know, 50, 60, 70 champions that are viable in this current meta, and the problems it causes even some of the best teams in Europe.
Well, Roccat certainly are expecting that mage in the bot lane, and with that Brand being taken away from Hyun, he did ridiculous donkalula's damage in those team fights, specifically around the Baron area where you just whip out your ultimate, and suddenly with all those bounces, it makes things extremely problematic for the enemy team.
I was actually on the stats sheet during that game yesterday, and the team fight you're mentioning, he dealt over 5,500 damage between his WQ and R combination. So terrifying stuff. Dr. Mundo is the response for the final ban after Brand from Roccat, Camille and Gragas taken off the table from G2 Esports to close out their second ban phase. And G2 looking at that bot lane mage. Is it a Morgana?
Yeah.
Is it a Swain? It's going to be the Swain at the end
I
of
was
the day.
about to say, you have to take Swain when he's open this late in the draft. Like, this is normally a champion that gets first picked, or at least taken very early. But Yana has favored a lot of the other mages down bot lane, but when you have a Swain, you can get him for free. I feel like you go for it. So I definitely agree with picking it here.
Maybe that could be a problem for G2 if they didn't actually really want to pick the Swain, but they feel like they have to pick the Swain. We'll see whether or not that will play into it. Most likely, the strength of the pick by itself should stand alone.
Waiting for a jungler here from Roccat, assuming Rumble is not in the jungle, and Kindred will secure it. So slightly more traditional style comp for Roccat. Poke and squishy, no traditional tank though. And G2 leaning into their mages.
Yeah, very snowbally. I like that from Roccat. This is the style they have to play. Not late game, Sejuani, stuff like that. Like, no. He just locked in Urgot.
Whoa, 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 whoa! Urgot for top lane Wonder?
Why not? It's that lane bully if you want to run that into profit on his Rumble.
I mean, yeah, if you think about it, Rumble has to get pretty close to deal his damage.
He's essentially a melee mage.
And Urgot, what he wants is you to be close. He can walk around, shooting out of the legs, actually dealing a ton of damage. Like, he's one of the hardest champions to trade against if you are close range.
Right.
With him, Wonder specifically saving his last pick, sees the blind Rumble, and then goes like, you know what? I like this matchup. This is not something we see a lot. Urgot top lane.
And Wonder is one of these players who's arguably the best top in EU right now. So if someone is going to pick the Urgot, the aggressive one-on-one mano-a-mano top lane, it's going to be him.
Well, listen, Foxtrot, you do a lot of educational videos.
God.
So tell
Where's
me,
this going?
tell me about Urgot. You know, what are you expecting to see from him? I've already got a glimpse into how Urgot's kit can do well into Rumble.
Sure.
But what else are we going to be looking for with this champion?
Well, Urgot, specifically the reason why you pick him is to have success in that lane phase. As the Fisher was mentioning, if you get close to him, he's really hard to deal with. And the gank setup from an Urgot is pretty spicy because if someone walks up to you, which Rumble will tend to do, you can just charge on them and flip them like a burger.
Exactly, and yeah, Rumble, he's a pushing champion.
Exactly. So I like it. I do like that setup. However, on the other side, if you can shut down the Urgot, he does have a rather binary playstyle. So
Late game as well, it's debatable how useful he can be in team fights.
that's also a good one, and we'll see how it plays out.
Oh, I'm waiting for my stats team to tell me when we last saw Urgot, because unfortunately I don't know it off the top of my head. But we will find out. And Wonder, we'll find out what level of performance he can put down when comboing with a Swain and a Trundle. There's a lot of CC for this Spider Crab to keep his shotgun legs in range.
And that's the thing about this G2 draft. Like, while there's some question marks around how the the Urgot will perform, it is pretty standard in terms of leave the bot lane on their own. They have a pretty strong 2v2. They have perma push from a Fiddle. You can play around, especially top lane, with this draft from them, and that's important. Roccat seems to be a little bit on the other side with the Roccat. At least at level 6, you can start looking towards that side.
Yeah, and Fiddlesticks is ridiculously squishy as a champion as well. If you're looking
Get Aftershock, baby.
Well, Aftershock does help, but he's still... well, yeah, he's got no meat on him. Of course he's squishy.
We'll see how well he performs. I do have an update from the stats team. Urgot has been played 13 times this year. CBLOL, TCL, and OPL from the emerging regions, and it currently has a 9-win and 4-loss record.
I feel like he's the kind of champion, if you do pick him, you're really good at playing Urgot.
And you pick him into a niche situation where he succeeds.
You have a matchup that you understand, and the guy you play against does not understand the matchup. I looked at the Urgot games so far. None of them have been against Rumble. So it's going to be the first time we get this specific matchup.
Does Wonder know something we don't? Or is Martin implying skill? We will find out.
I mean, Rumble, to be fair, has only become meta recently. It wasn't obviously a big deal in spring. I think the Urgot is probably never really meta, but...
Okay, let's turn our attention then to the other lane that I think is quite interesting. We've seen sort of the Zoe Lucian in that mid lane a lot, but this bottom, Roccat into Swain Fiddle. Sorry, observers, I went all over the place to confuse you. I'm terrified for the Fear, Flash, Swain combination. There's so much CC, and those little pigeons can get cut down quickly, Foxtrot.
And it's a huge AoE setup as well. They're almost like, well, I wouldn't say identical ultimates, but you have that massive circle of death around your champion when you pop those ultis, and we've seen that happen as well with the incredible engage that Fiddlesticks offers.
Exactly, and I think when you play Zyra Khan, you're often looking for all-ins. Either like, you know, level 2, you go for it, but you can't really do that now that the enemy team got it first. Or like after level 6, you try and like all-in and burst someone down. But that's kind of a problem against Swain, because he is not an easy target to burst. He will have stopwatch as well after 8 minutes. And if you go for Fiddle, there's a high chance he gets at least a fear off, procs the aftershock, gets 70 armor or slightly more even after a couple of levels. And again, even bursting him down is not going to be that easy. And if you go all in, there's a lot of damage coming from G2's bot lane. They're probably going to kill one of you.
Right, and that's just in the 2v2. That's not even taking into consideration the potential showings of junglers in this bot lane. And knowing that both these lanes might be looking for those engages will put a high priority on the junglers and their pathing to be around those lanes, so that if the engages come down, you can be there to ensure that your team is the team that comes out on top.
3.5 minutes in, both junglers are clearing their jungles there, Foxtrot. I'm keeping my eye on where they decide to go, while Prophet is trying his best to stay away from the kneecaps of Urgot. Of course, avoid some of that additional damage. Pushing from side to side. It's still an even game in the top, and Prophet, level 4, seems to be doing okay into Wonder. Definitely want to keep my eyes on how that continues to progress, because Jankos is making his way top.
That's what we expect here. Prophet pushing. Wonder's taking a lot of damage early on. Obviously, of course, not a lot of MR on his side, but this Rumble is going to go down quickly.
He's not respecting it.
2 versus 2. Let's see where the damage comes out. Wonder continues to step forward, throws out the corrosive charge. Flash away from the disdain means there's no chuck over the shoulder.
Oh, turnaround!
Memento looking for the turnaround. First blood to Roccat. Defensive flash from Wonder. Memento is looking with that dance of arrows and will not be able to close the gap at 1-0 to Roccat.
Such a big mistake though from G2. The entire goal here is use the pillar to try and force the early flash, and then you jump onto Rumble and knock him back as an Urgot. But Wonder, because Prophet was waiting with the flash, he got impatient. He jumped in too early. He got flashed away from. They actually did not manage to lock down the Rumble. And then he gets in range, and suddenly Memento shows up.
It wasn't just a question of patience for Wonder either. It was Jankos as well, where he got a little bit over-aggressive at the end, flashing into... He had the red buff, right? So he figured, oh, this guy's got no flash. He's low. We can do this. But we have talked about Memento as well, and how he's really been the stand-up member of Roccat. And this is... I'm so glad that the observers are focusing on him to start with, because this is it. He knows that this is most likely going to be going down, so he's already making his way top.
Wait for the flash, wait for it. Nope! Jumped in too early. Prophet gets to flash away from it, and that's why he gets in range of Memento.
And he gets a stack from that.
Oh, even better.
That's spicy. We have seen that some Kindred picks have struggled to turn into the mid and late game because they don't have as many stacks as they would like, and getting a stack as early on as that from a kill nonetheless.
And you couldn't ask for a better start of your Roccat.
Yeah.
You get 2 flashes top lane, your best player just got the kill, and you were supposed to just give up a first blood for nothing.
Well, let's see what Roccat can do with it. They've got themselves that 900 gold lead, and as you mentioned, the best player, oh, good paddle star from Blank, managing to curve the bullet around Jankos. And of course, Memento on screen right now. Got 1 stack to his name. Let's see whether or not this is a second. Yes, it is. So 2 stacks by 6 minutes. That's incredibly valuable. And he's already lingering around in the top lane. So if Wonder or Jankos, who is now low, gets caught out of position, this could get dangerous. Perks is going to get a full channel on the culling. Almost takes out Blank. Jankos now in trouble. Will's Frenzy doing some work for Memento. But he's able to escape with his life thanks to the Pillar of Ice, as well as that frozen domain. He
was playing with fire there, though. I feel like Memento was looking for a bit more than just a disengage from Jankos, and that is the unique benefit that the Kindred pick has over other junglers, is with the pathing that she took into the jungle by hopping over the Baron wall, G2 actually have the entrance to that jungle side warded. But it's not enough when you can jump over the wall and sneak in around the top.
Look at all the control wards on Roccat as well. It is the Freddy special. Set up jungle paths for Memento by warding the river with like 4 to 5 control wards. He can then jump over all the walls. He knows he's not spotted initially when he jumps in there. G2 Esports, they were supposed to get ahead top lane. that did not happen. It's actually really slowed down the ability to try and snowball Wonder Zergot.
We'll have to see how it slows down G2's mid game, what impact it has. You know, we talked a lot in the pregame about how this Urgot could potentially take over the lane, but now he's playing into Ninja Tabe, obviously that Dawn Shield as well, so Prophet got some ability to negate some of the damage, and obviously with some support from Memento, going to be pretty comfortable, pretty happy with how these first 8 minutes of gameplay have played out. Roccat, sort of the underdogs coming into this matchup. G2 playing well and picking up a win yesterday. Now they're kind of playing from behind, albeit it's still very early, so a lot of time still, and a lot of tools. When there's a Swain, Fiddle, Lucian in the hand of Perks, there's a lot of ways that G2 can pull this game back.
And what I like the most about what Roccat are doing so far is they've given themselves a bit of a lead, but they're playing with confidence on that as well. Too many times we've seen teams get that lead, not do too much with it, maybe a bit shaky in their play. Not what we're seeing so far from Roccat.
And that's actually something, Foxtrot, that's been true for Roccat all splits. When Roccat have a lead at 15 minutes, they are 4-0. When Roccat have a loss or a deficit at 15 minutes, it becomes a loss. They're pretty binary that way. So we'll keep our eyes on their gold lead. We'll keep our eyes on the next 6.5 minutes. And look, statistics don't lie, okay? They're undefeated. The odds are stacked in Rockat's favor.
Oh, Prophet.
And they're going to be stacked even further. Perks and Blank go in a fight. The equalizer is flashed away from Perks, but here comes Memento as well. Don Tavares forward, just in range, but not for the assist.
And once again, remember, it's G2 who's supposed to control the top side with that first gank. Completely backfires. Prophet is now the one who's roaming. Great setup from Roccat towards the mid lane here. Perks now dying once. Same thing for, of course, Jankos earlier.
He doesn't just die, but he loses his flash as well. So the potential of a return gank into that mid lane, it's quite possible considering he went that aggressive without any vision around that top side. You kind of have to give a bit more respect over to the side of Roccat that something could be happening.
It's the Freddy special mate. It's them control wards being placed. Even though Prophet actually didn't really pass through any of them, doesn't matter. They had all the vision, top side, Perks. I think I get it why he's flashing, because Jankos is on the bot side. He's trying to go down and join him, but at that point, you're probably dead, mate.
You're probably dead, and we have to give credit, though, to Prophet, not just for the roam, but just the way he placed that ultimate there, forced Perks to have no option but to try and salvage the play with that flash, which still ends up in him dying.
Well, listen, G2 Esports are down 1,300 gold. Perks, while he is up a sizable amount of CS, the opposite is true for Hikyu. Hikyu is out farming Hyanin right now. I think is what you'd kind of expect based on some early levels. But now Hyanin were dead. They've got access to their ultimates. They've got that wombo combo available to them. And Memento's going to get spotted out by this ward. So G2, we're entering the 10 to 20 minute mark. They cannot afford to lose more. Let Roccat take more control of their jungle. Prophet and Wonder pushing up. Keep your eyes on the equalizer cooldown, becoming available soon, Fisher.
Yeah, and keep your eyes on Memento. Wherever he goes, the action will start. He's moving towards mid again. This time, I think it's called by Wonder. Even though there's actually no vision in this jungle from G2 to spot them, it is currently still just a control wards from Roccat. So good setup. Wonder now sees Memento here, but he's all alone.
He is all alone. And
ooh, a lot of damage. Looking at Wonder. I just cannot wait to see Urgot's ultimate. Really, really, really love that ultimate. So I want to see whether or not...
I just want to see him pull someone out of the Kindred ult and be like, yes!
That's going to be quality.
Let's take a look at this. Rift Herald, no contest whatsoever. And G2, they're setting up for a Cloud Drake. Blank not going to find the Sleepy Trouble Bubble, and Perks uses the cleanse just to try and get away even further. Perks able to escape with his life. It only cost a equalizer cooldown. And no dragon for G2. So again, it's every advantage in the early game is going to Roccat, and they are starting to take control of this mid game.
These are the kind of games where they can look really good. When they get off to the good start, when it's the correct players on the top side getting the kills. It's not bot lane or anything. So far, so good.
But there's a hypothetical advantage in that Rift Herald. Because I mean, we saw what happened last game when the team got the Rift Herald with missing.
Yeah, they all died.
Yeah, nothing. It didn't really do too much. So yes, they are using their advantage pretty well so far. But I am excited to see what they do with that Rift Herald specifically, because the way Prophet's moving around the map with Memento looks to me like they're more than happy to potentially set up for a cheeky dive somewhere. And if you do that combined with the Rift Herald, you can really blow a game open.
See, top lane is an opening. Wonder, of course, is not very tanky on the Zergot here in the early game, but they've tried to go mid a few times. Gotten perks down in one of them. None of the turrets really taking a lot of damage, and G2 even gets a free Drake because all of Roccat decided this time to recall. Let's fully reset the map. They're now back, and it's their turn to make a play because it's G2 has to go back to base, or just did, with Yanan and Wadid. So let's see if they actually do place the Rift Herald. They have a big opening now, especially top lane.
I think Memento's sort of looking at that mark on the chickens as well, and honestly, as far as it goes, a Cloud Dragon for a mark, I still put it slightly in favor of the Cloud Dragon, obviously, but that still means a decent amount with the way that Kindra's marks work.
The jungler inside of you so badly wanted to say the mark was worth more than the dragon.
It's mark and a good recall, so there's two things you're gaining for that Drake.
And the red buff.
And the red buff now. I'm calling worth.
Okay, so now we've added all the extra things on this. Roccat pretty happy with that one. Memento 1-0-0. He's got that Skirmisher Saber with Warrior Enchant upgraded. That's 20 CS. Well, look at the gold difference. It's currently 1,300 gold more than Jankos, and this juicy top lane tower is the focus. Look at this. Even Blank is making his way up, but Wadid, as well as Jankos, are around. The quickness goes in. Wonder forced to flash for his life, but the Coastal's doing a little to stop Roccat. That's a double kill already, and with the rest of the team, Roccat can also take the tower.
You got your tower dive right there. We talked about top lane probably being the place to look because that's where you can take down maybe just one member. In this case, it ended up being more because Jankos and Wadid were here to try and defend, but this was all of Roccat diving onto them except for the Zoe sitting mid.
What surprised me specifically was G2 kind of just let this happen while they knew what was going down. They had two people sitting in the bush. They even ping-warded the bush because it was like they wanted to make this play. But you can't do that when it's a 3v5 and you're still going to end up losing. So look at this, they know. They know what's going to happen here.
They see 4 people, that's true. At this point here, I think if you did ult the other way, just to get out of there. You can't save this man. He's on a Rumble ult as well. I still really want to praise, and it's not even a joke anymore, like the actual vision setup for Roccat on this side of the map. It's been great. They've done it now multiple times. Look at the minimap. This is from the play they set up just before. It is so hard for G2 to 100% know exactly where everyone is before the play is already starting. G2 that saw them then eventually at the turret and still decided to try and go for the defense.
Yeah, I definitely think look at that minimap. All of the control with all of the blue vision from Roccat in the top quadrant. It's exactly what Fisher was talking about. That's what allowed Roccat to pick up this 4,000 gold lead. Thank you so much, observers, for highlighting it. Memento and Prophet have stuck a gigantic Roccat flag inside G2's base and said, look at me, this is mine now.
It has been the way they played the entire game, not only denying the vision, but playing around that as well. And here comes the Rift Herald. Now, when you put it down in the mid lane, it is the high-value target to get that mid lane tower down. It opens up the map very nicely, but it's also hard to defend because it's such a short lane that as soon as you see the Rift Herald go down, it's essentially just charging on your tower.
Don't think there's anything Perkz can really do to stop this. He's trying to get help from Wonder, but so far the Urgot has been unsuccessful.
Slightly unsuccessful, I would say. And what has been successful, I know we're always talking about Memento and what he's able to do, but Jankos, he's not playing the dog jungler this game. He's not playing the Braum or the Alistar or the Fauna or anything like that. He's playing a legitimate meta jungler. And he is 2 levels down Memento at this stage of the game.
It's back on Braum duty, baby.
I mean, Braum was banned.
It's back on Tom Ken's duty.
Wasn't Alistar free?
It was available. Shen was also there, but they didn't want to do funnel because they early picked that Trundle after they saw it was just Zoe actually on the other side, but they valued the Trundle so highly, despite not really seeing a lot else from Rockat's side. And while the Trundle, I mean, technically again, the first gank was the correct one. It was just poorly executed. That started the snowball. Then the second tower dive was fantastic.
I mean, listen, Jankos is, losing the mechanical ability now, so
but there's no mechanics on Trundle.
Well, touche.
I guess a pillar is a skill shot.
Well, let's take a look at this. Jankos gets tagged there by the Sleepy Trouble Bubble. Blank's paddle star is charging. He protects the right.
Oh!
Snipes down Jankos, and Blank. That was beautiful.
That wasn't even his free flash from a W. He actually proper dedicated to that play with his actual flash. He was so confident going into that one. And it all starts with greed from Jankos, something we've seen already once this game.
Yeah, look at the minimap. His top lane is recalling, his mid lane is at the tier 2 turret. He's like, nah, guys, I got it.
Doesn't even get the blue.
I want to get this blue buff. He's alone, and this just looks great. Oh.
spicy.
Pick the right shot. Blank manages to pick up the kill. That means 6-0, 6,000 gold lead. We saw that drop down again for the second time this game. When Roccat are ahead of 15 minutes, they are so far undefeated. And they've got themselves a fantastic lead going into the late game. But how do they press over these next objectives? Because they don't have a traditional sort of front line, going to be very reliant on killing something, and if they don't kill something, I think the re-engage could be scary to Fisho.
But I feel like if you don't kill something with 4 damage dealers and Roccat engage,
you've done something wrong.
You're probably missing every skill shot then. So it's all on Roccat to just continue forcing these fights. I get really concerned when I see a play like the one from Jankos.
Yeah.
Like completely unnecessary. He's moving in there. His entire team is not around. He doesn't have flash. Like that blue buff, is that really a high value target for you?
I guess, I mean, we were talking about this thing before in the previous game, the slider of opportunistic to desperate. I mean, what about a third part where just silly? Can we just add that to the slider as well? I feel like that's kind of what that was. And maybe it is a situation where Jankos feels like he is too far behind, where he's not happy or satisfied with being as far behind as he is with how the game's gone, which may sound obvious, but maybe he just wants to get a bit cheeky and looking for those ways back into the game.
2,300 gold down. So of the team's 6k gold deficit, Jankos is responsible for a little over a third. He's got himself the Cinder Hulk, as well as Red Smite and Ninja Tabba. That's it. Whereas Memento is making his way towards this Blade of the Rune King already. That's self 102. Has he got any more stacks? I haven't checked.
He has a few, yeah.
Just take a guess.
I just saw it.
How happy would you be if at 19 minutes you had 6 stacks on Kindred?
Does he actually have 6 stacks?
Yes, he does.
That is ridiculous, honestly. I think he's more than happy about that one. I mean, that will suit you for the entire game, let alone for being less than 20 minutes into it.
Yeah, we've seen Kindreds at like 30 minutes with like 2 stacks.
Yeah.
In some of the games when they've actually been shut down early.
This is a solo queue Kindred. This is what you see out of solo queue Kindreds, where they're able to go around and just farm stacks. This is not what I was expecting to see from a competitive Kindred, let alone one going up against G2.
And I always love to see the different builds on Kindred. We've seen so many different options. Rapid Fire Cannon coming in after Warrior Enchant has been something most of the Kindreds have gone towards. Black Cleaver also being used. This one is the Blade. Of course, he's against Trundle, Urgot, and even, I guess, a Swain who will be stacking some HP on his side. Like, there is a lot of bruisers for him to deal with. I think it makes sense.
We've even seen the Blood Razor coming out of Kindred sometimes as well. I believe Shook went for that one, which is better against tankier targets because you have more of that sustained damage. But I think in this game specifically, what Mento's gone for is superior because you have that better early game, that better burst damage as well, which helps you snowball in those ganks. And if he's going for the Blade of the Rune King as well, he's looking in a good spot.
Well, let's see what Roccat can do with the rest of this engage. A lot of damage into this inner turret. This will be the 4th of the game with just a couple more auto attacks. 20 minutes and 20 seconds on the clock. Roccat now have 4 towers to 0, 6 kills to 0. And while in fact they've each traded a Cloud Drake, look at how Roccat just swapped the pressure. Use that great vision control that they have. Dive onto Wonder with the quickness. But there's no minion wave to work with. So Equalizer and quickness somewhat wasted, but it did push G2 away, and Roccat, the call right now is to back out. I was wondering whether or not they're going to stick on the tower, and instead, not right now.
Yana over trying to get the top lane turret down. It's going to be Hikyu TPing up here. Yana not too scared of him, even though the Storm Razor is completed. On his side, G2 Esports desperately trying to get something. They haven't gotten a single turret in this game so far. Top lane turret is low, same with the bot lane one, but you gotta get there, you gotta cash in, otherwise Roccat are just looking for another fight, and I feel like no matter where they engage now, they should be winning it.
But at what point are you trying to cash in too hard? Perhaps you overstep for the bot lane tower and you leave that Baron open for Roccat.
At that point, then you're definitely too hard.
Just a tad too much there. I don't think that one's worth it whatsoever. But we might see G2 fall into a trap like that. I mean, maybe even that Jankos play we saw earlier was sort of that thing where you're just trying to get something. You're in a game where you're struggling to just find any little scraps you like. You're happy with anything. And
hey, listen, Jankos has got 2 null magic mantles, okay? He's fine. But he's going up against a Blade of the Rune King completed already for Memento. Morellonomicon and Hourglass for Profit, Oblivion Orb, Ludens, and Blasting Wall.
Oh, here we go.
as it stands, Yankos, see, look at how those null magic mantles helped him out. Not really, I'm joking, of course. Running for their lives, Mementos is going to be able to escape with his no summoner spells blown, only Norscaren's ultimate for them to escape safely.
And we did flash for that one, hoping there was a chance to kill Memento. There was still an ulti from the Kindred, so they had to burn him down during the fear duration. Not enough damage able to come in and actually kill him. Sleep onto Trundle. Nope, they blocked that one. Here we go.
Look at the body block onto Perks. He loses about 50% of his hit points. And look, again, all of this. The most impressive thing for me, Roccat are not greeting for kills. They're playing objectives. They just push G2 away, secure the tower, and back out. It's nearly 8 or 9K.
It's Roccat when they win the early game. They actually look good in how they try and close out games.
Calculated is the word I would use for this Roccat squad in this game. They are genuinely playing the entire map, thinking about what their next move is going to be and how they want to do that, and therefore setting up for that next move. Too many times we'll see teams that are perhaps towards the lower end of the standings, or teams that aren't cracking into that top tier of EU teams. They just don't necessarily make that think too much 2 steps ahead, you know, and don't set up properly. But Roccat have done that really well this game.
See what happens around the Baron. Normally actually something they also do very well. It is interesting with the graphic. We showed a little drop down earlier. Always winning the games. If they're ahead at 15, always losing if not. And it's been the tale of one of the most frustrating teams to try and predict. And also one of the worst teams to praise in Europe, because whenever you do praise them too much, they have one of those bad games. Not this one. It's G2 struggling, kind of continuing that trend a bit from after the team returned from Rift Rivals. It's just not been the same for them. Had some good games, but also lost to Giants last week. Currently playing a Roccat team does not look too strong the last couple of games as well, and this looks like a guaranteed win for Roccat.
But a 4-on-5 team at the midway point of the split. Your take wins where you can get them if you're looking to crack into that playoff spot. G2's sorted for that.
This actually means Roccat will tie Vitality and also Splice in there. There's a lot of teams suddenly sitting there fighting for the last few playoff spots.
Don't want to get left behind.
No, you absolutely do not. Wonder, by the way, took a bit of a poke there. Still got the adaptive helm as far as itemization is concerned, so not quite as much burst as maybe Blank would be hoping for, but the tower falls. That's the objective. That's what gives Roccat just shy of the 10,000 gold lead. And Fisher, you talked about the standings, you talked about tying with Vitality, tying with Splice. For Roccat, their all-time record against G2, 7 wins, 13 losses. So we're closing that gap. They're 1-2 this year. This would even out at 2-2. And Roccat is just one of these teams that is just on the outskirts of that top 4, top 5, and has been somewhat consistently for a while.
And 7-13, it doesn't sound that amazing, but we have to remember G2 for most of that been the best or second best team in Europe. So it actually is very impressive they picked up that many wins.
And that's exactly where the title of Kingslayers came from.
It's true.
It's something that was...
We had to retire that because G2 lost the split.
They did indeed. But it is something that just Roccat, they seem to sort of elevate themselves to their opponent's play at times.
They just have players who mechanically are very gifted, so if they do get the good starts, they can win against any team in Europe. But another point about the standings thing, when you have these teams in the middle fighting for playoff spots, typically you look at your schedule and say, okay, bottom teams, those are must-win games, and top teams, we can afford to lose these, at least most of them, and we can still make playoffs. So when you start taking wins off top teams unexpectedly, that's why you really start pulling ahead of some of the other middle-of-the-pack teams, and that's why this one can be so huge for Roccat.
Well, let's set some expectations. With all the outer towers down, I'm going to say the most play-by-play in line you've ever heard. Roccat want to play around Baron.
They're starting it, Trevor.
So, Deficio, is their setup good enough?
They have full vision, they've pushed the top lane, they just pushed in mid before this.
A simple yes would have sufficed. Roccat are on the Baron, and they're going to take this one out.
Nice!
Look at that engage! Baron is secured by Memento. In the back end, what did is blown up, and a paddle stop boots Yankos back to base.
Not just securing the Baron, but 2 kills on top of it as well. What else are Roccat going to get here? Blank's turning towards the top side alongside Norscaren and Memento. With Wonder coming in with the recalls, will G2 be able to defend?
Right now, Memento is fairly low, but his ulti is still available. Norscaren around, look at Hiku, he's pushing mid.
Well, let's take a look at this. Perks gets caught up, takes a paddle in. Memento was running for his life. There's been a severe under-usage of Urgot and Kindred ultimates this game. It's what I was most excited to cast. And I've not seen any of their interactions. G2, 0 kills on the board, and their base is being obliterated by Roccat.
They're getting stomped at the moment. We mentioned Roccat good Baron setups went ahead. This was a great setup.
It was a great setup, and they started it as a bait as well. So G2 knew this was going down, and they wanted to try and defend it, because if you are G2 in this situation, before this Baron goes down, you're already looking down, you're staring down the barrel of the gun, and you can't really afford to lose that Baron, because what happens next? You're already bleeding towers left, right, and center. What happens if you give them the siege buff that is Baron? Things are starting to look pretty scary for G2.
It is looking scary for G2. Luckily, they've got this little bit of a buffer. Of course, 7-2 in the first half of the split. Let's take a look.
Oh, nope, not in range.
Breakout plays out. No fight just yet. And of course, Roccat going to join this melee of 5-5. You can see the standings, how close this middle of the pack is. All right, there's the engage we're looking for. Quickness into the equalizer. Wadid is down before the Crowstorm can really do anything. And Perks is pushed away by Hikyu. That's already a kill down onto Perks in the back end. It's a double kill for Hikyu. Roccat open the base and open the inhibitor.
It's 11-0. G2 Esports, one of the best early game teams in Europe, have not picked up a single kill against Roccat here. They're just killing the Nexus turrets now.
Well, look at Roccat. They didn't even need to give up a Baron. Roccat are the unflappable, untiltable team I talked about earlier today. And Roccat take down G2 Esports.
In what fashion did they do it? Not conceding a single kill. Memento really living up to the hype that we've given him, the praise, the man on that screen right there, as long as they can sort out whatever that was. I'm glad their in-game performance and synergy is better than their off-game, but still.
And you have to go back to that first blood play. How different could the game have been if the execution was cleaner? This Urgot last pick, it shocked us all. And then it shocked us even more at how little it did in game.
Yeah, we just got spoiled by the Wukong from the last game. We're like, oh, look at no surprise pick, it's gonna be great. But the first gank was a mistake from G2. They got simply outplayed after that. And then I think the next setup, the tower dive, you were talking about it, Foxtrot as well, like the setup where they move so many members top, they go against the Urgot, they kill him. That's kind of what really put it in favor of Roccat, after it already stopped the initial Urgot from getting ahead.
Roccat take down G2 Esports to make the all-time win-loss 8-13. And remember that G2 Esports have won 4 out of 5 of the last EU LCS splits. That is a phenomenal record for an organization that doesn't have a EU LCS title under the belt. And also, one quick shout out now that we've celebrated Roccat for the better part of the last 40 minutes. Congratulations, Shocks. The only prophet to predict that Roccat would take down G2. She's got a point back on all of us.
Well, I don't think she needs any points on me. I'm sitting way in the basement.
Somebody has to be at the back. You know?
It's true. Good. What can I say? I've said it before. You guys look so much better because I look so terrible.
Well, I think we had some upsets today. That was great. First of all, with especially this game.
This weekend, I think, is fair.
Yeah. It's a wide open playoff race. I was scared that the top half was kind of breaking away from the bottom half because we had a bunch of teams that was losing too many games. But now that you have Roccat picking up a bit of a surprise win against G2, instead of being 4-6 and sitting outside top 6, again, they tie Vitality, they tie Splice. Schalke is 1 win ahead of them, but Schalke just played the 4 weakest teams in the LCS. They have a tough schedule the next couple of weeks, so nothing is guaranteed.
After that whole story, who potentially breaks into the top 6? Because, of course, you've got H2K 0 and 10, but then UOL and Giants both at 3 wins and 7 losses, respectively. So who's going to be closest to this 5-5 melee that is touching distance? You know, it's so close.
It is. I mean, I feel like we're maybe moving past the dark horse of UOL. Maybe that ship has sailed, honestly. But Roccat, if they can look more like they did right here, you absolutely have to give it to them. But that is the problem with
Careful
Roccat.
when you praise them the next time.
Right, I've just jinxed them. That's the issue.
Facts are facts, and you guys all know how much I love my stats. If they have a lead at 15 minutes, They are undefeated. If Roccat do not have a lead at 15 minutes, they lose the game. Like, it's that simple. Can you argue against it? No, you can't. Nope. I'm not going to let you. You guys at home, give us your vote for player of the game. I really hope Interview's ready. At LOL Esports on Twitter. Your 3 suggestions are Memento, Blanc, and Norskeren. Memento will be joining PGL after an interview with the Roccat bot lane, and they're not quite ready, so I will give you a chance to defend.
I mean, there's not you 100% correct. The stat didn't lie.
It doesn't lie. Stats don't lie.
Ahead of 15 minutes, they look good, they win.
Thank you very much. For more on Roccat to win, because they were ahead of 15, is checking with Pyra and the bot lane.
Thank you very much, Quick Shot. As you said, I am joined by Norskeren and Hikyu. So I'll start this one out. You were telling me right before the interview that you guys knew you were going to win this game. Hikyu, how did you know that?
It's just the Roccat 1-1 syndrome every week. At least this split, we have went 1-1 every week. So yesterday after the loss, we just knew, even though we lost, we're just going to win tomorrow, just because we're Roccat. So.
Those stats, they definitely don't lie. You guys have consistently been 1-1. How does that happen? It's like you can beat anybody and lose to anybody. Like, Norskeren, what is the deal?
I think it's because of Memento. You know, he has this explosive playstyle. You know, and I think he either like carries the game for us a lot of times, but then he also like loses our early game for us. I mean, it's kind of rough, but that's just his playstyle, and he's carried us more times than he has lost the game for us. So I appreciate that, I guess.
I like how you save him at the end. You're not fully throwing him under the bus. You're bringing him back up. But okay, so if Memento is the guy that you live and die by, who's the secondary carry? We've been asking this question on broadcast. Who's the other person you look to try and save the game?
I think it's definitely not. I think it's one of the Koreans, or they're both like kind of equal, but they're usually the ones who lead the game. Like at least in this game, you know, Profi was like telling Memento because he like greeted for some camps. You know, he tried to get those extra stats or on stacks. So it's kind of a mix between Profit and Blanc.
Okay, and those guys definitely have explosive potential, but I've had my eye on the two of you for a while as well, and it seems like you've both played a lot of interesting compositions with the 2v2s. There's been a lot of marksmen, traditional marksmen. There's been a lot of mages. You both had good success on those types of things. So Hikyu, for you, what style do you really prefer?
I don't really prefer a single style. I can just adapt to both. Whatever my team needs, I just play. It just depends on the draft, and yeah, it's just basically what we need, and I can play. So I think that's the edge I have over maybe some other botlane players. Like, not all botlane players play mages and marksmen. But yeah, I think we have the edge as a Roccat bot lane in that scenario.
Fair enough. And Norskeren, of course, we already know you prefer those playmakers. You got to go back on the Braum and everything. Is there anything that you'd like to see change about this current meta with the support pool?
I mean, I really like the support pool at the moment, but it's kind of annoying to play versus Fiddlesticks. You know, this is the champion I hate the most. You know, I have to go cleanse instead of TP, or I didn't really need to, but I feel I have to. So it's kind of just, you can play so much right now, but there's certain champions that are really annoying that I don't like. But I think it just spices up the meta. There's a lot of potential for like 2v2 kills in the bot lane, and I like that.
Well, that's always good. Now, it does seem like things are going to be going at least a little bit more back to normal. There's some buffs coming through on the crit marksman. Do you guys think this is going to be enough to make the bot lane less weird?
I'm not really sure. I think there's room for both. I think we're going to definitely see people play more crit, but I think also people are still going to play the mages like Swain or Vladimir. I think they're just really good champions. They synergize well with another support, so it's just going to be less mages. I think they're still going to be there.
Do you want to add something, Hikyu?
I agree. Yeah.
Okay, good thing to add. Okay, so one more question before I let you guys go. We'll zoom out of the game stuff because, holy crap, you just beat G2 Esports. How's that feel?
Well, it's the 1-1 curse, this split. We talked about it, and I don't know, it was really random. I have no idea how we just smashed them so hard. I don't know.
Well, in the words of Cutie Pie, how can your opponents know what you're doing if you don't? So on that bombshell, we're going to send it off to the post-game lobby. You guys take it away.